Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and today we're back with another Honkai Star Rail guide video for version 1.2. For those of us who don't know, there's going to be 4 new relic sets that's going to be introduced in the game. 2 of them are going to be from the simulated universe. There's going to be a World 7 that appears. I will just leave it up on screen first. We'll talk about the simulated universe 2 and who it can be used for in terms of like the different characters in the game. And of course, we will go into the new Cavern of Corrosion 2 relic gear towards the end of the video. I'll leave like in the timestamps all the different relic sets for those of us who are interested. You can just like skip to the one that you care about, but I think there's going to be a ton of value for all of them as well. So now let's start off with like the simulated universe relics, and how we're going to do this is going to talk about which character I think could possibly use this as well, and we will talk about like discussing other alternatives in the game, whether it's worth holding off farming or whether we should farm it. First things first, for the simulated universe, the first set that is going to be around is the Rutilant Arena. Sorry if I'm pronouncing names wrong or anything, but basically the 2-piece effect, this is going to be of course the planner ornament as well as the link rope set. Increases whereas crit rate by a certain percent. Is not shown in the live stream yet. I assume that it's going to be the same as the Inert Salsoto. That's the assumption that I'm making. And whereas current crit rate is equal to or greater than a certain amount, the whereas basic attack and skill damage increases. So right now, if let me just go right into, for example, the synthesis menu, and we can just look at Inert Salsoto. This is the piece that is going to be compared off against the most. So assuming that the ratios here like 8 and 50 is the same thing, the difference between the one in the Rutilant Arena as well as this is basic attack and skill. If your damage comes from basic attack or skill, definitely you will benefit a lot more from those. This means that in future there are going to be characters who don't rely on follow-up attacks and don't do damage in their ultimate ability. I think in that case, this is like the exact alternative, for example, to the Inert Salsoto in the game as well. So this forces players to not just farm this Inert Salsoto, but some of us may want to like switch and farm the Rutilant Arena. In terms of who can exactly use this set in the game right now, if we look at all the different characters in the game so far, actually all of them are doing damage either through the follow-up abilities or ultimate abilities in some form. I think the only character that doesn't do damage in the ultimate or follow-up attacks and focuses on like basic and skill damage probably is Bronya, but she already has a 100% crit rate as well for her basic attacks. So this set is not even relevant for her as well. Other than that, yeah, all these characters here, as we can see, they all do damage in their ultimate ability, and you wouldn't really want to move away from Inert Salsoto, especially if you already have a pretty solid piece. Maybe Esther is one of them, an example of a character that you can swap out as well for this set, but I just think it's a bit more min-maxing for one character, in my opinion at least, or maybe a support like Tingyun. But then again, it's also like min-maxing for a support character that doesn't really do too much damage in her basic attacks too. So I think that this set is likely for a future character that might come about, which is able to enhance their abilities using the ultimate ability, for example, instead of like enhancing abilities through their skill. That is my own preference. I think for now, pretty safe, not super important to like change any character builds just because of this new gear as well. The one I want to talk about in the next one is going to be this effect resistance set, this broken Keel. It's very interesting because this is the first set that is an effect rest set, and it gives team-wide party buffs based on effect rest. For those of us who don't know, effect rest basically reduces the chance of being crowd controlled, having DOT debuffs on characters and stuff like that. And even a character like Lota, who if we go here and see, he has like a 70% chance to resist crowd control debuffs. He still gets damage over time quite often, and if we can get rid of that using more effect rest, is also much more solid for this particular character, which is why even a character like Lota still benefits from a good amount of effect resistance. And on top of that, once we have a certain amount of effect rest, we will then be able to give the party like a team-wide crit damage buffing. I think it's like extremely solid. The current alternative that we have right now, I think is with Yukong, my set here, is the Fleet of the Ageless. So right now it's like attack buffing of 8%, but if we already have an attack buffer on a team like Harmony character most of the time, the crit damage becomes a lot more valuable as well. So in that sense, I can just switch this Fleet of Ageless out for example for a broken Keel if I wanted to, on a character like Lota who benefits from effect rest. In that sense, I think it's good amounts of turning your supportive characters into a more offensive team-wide support kind of unit as well. Who can benefit? I think straight away, healers like Lota, for example, like Natasha, the characters that are meant to cleanse, Because the idea of why you want to build your cleansers with a bit higher effect resistance is if you are playing a cleanser by choice, most likely that floor or that gameplay will have a lot of enemies debuffing, meaning that you want your reliable person who is going to help you remove debuffs to be has high effect resistance as possible, so that they don't get debuffed and then your whole team gets debuffed and you can't do anything. So characters like Lota, Natasha, March 7, all of these characters benefit quite a bit from debuff, from effect resistance, naturally defensive characters as well. But on top of that, other characters that I think could benefit from effect resistance will be Taunters in general. For example, like Japat can benefit from it, for Fire MC can benefit from it, and Clara, who I don't have on this account, she's the only character I don't have on my main account, also can benefit for a little bit of FRES effect resistance as well. Especially if you can give crit damage to yourself as well as your team, I think it's pretty solid overall. We currently don't have many other supportive 2-piece sets for the Planisphere, for like the whole team. So I think I'll definitely be farming this set for this domain, and at the same time, because you get a pretty good amounts of, for example, crit rates pieces as well. Inert Salsoto might be better for most characters right now, but if you look at the domain as holistic value, for the Inert Salsoto domain, you get like that defense set, which defense is nice to have as a stat, but it doesn't really work against like the changing mechanics if, for example, you need to resist crowd control debuffs or anything. So good domain gives you both offensive and defensive sets, and your defensive set is also one of the best in slot team-wide buffing gear as well. Another thing to note is, from what I'm aware, effect resistance can't be found on like main stats of your gear, so that is another way to obtain more effect resistance as well, unlike a lot of the other main stats in the game so far. So that is for the simulated universe ones. Of course, there's going to be a new Cavern of Corrosion that's also going to be added, which we will talk about it right now. Is this like Cavern of Corrosion is going to appear as another one, likely in the new maps that are coming up. Okay, first of all, let's talk about the Longevous Disciple. This is the one that gives the max HP bonus in the 2-piece, and the 4-piece, we'll talk about it in a bit. My opinion, I think the max HP likely will be the same as attack percentage of 12%. They tend to scale around similar. You can just look at the main stats of gear and you can see the ratio. Defense, I think, is slightly higher, like defense main stats. For the 4-piece, when the wearer is hit or their max HP is consumed by an ally, including by themselves, their crit rate is increased by a certain number of turns. So as we can tell, like when the HP is consumed, what this means is like any character who has like sapping life mechanics, for example like Arlen or maybe Blade also, when he saps his life by themselves, like that means it's a self-inflicted cause of harm, which is definitely destruction characters playstyle. Like Arlen Blade, I think it's an Arlen Blade buff indirectly, you get a stackable crit rate. I'm interested to know how much this crit rate stacks. I think something that is fair is like if you give 4% crit rate buff per stack, maybe up to 5 times, 20% crit rate buff, I think is massive already. If it's somewhere between, I think like 16% crit rate, I think it will be already best in slot. For example, like Ireland, in my opinion, you can, because you get a lot more crit stats. Ireland has a lot of already attack buffs, damage bonuses in his kit. Doesn't really care too much about lightning bonus damage because you can get it eventually from a Harmony lightning character with Planetary Rendezvous. So those are my impressions. For Blade, definitely, if you have Bronya in your account, you already have access to wind damage bonus from same typing because of Planetary Rendezvous, which means you don't really need to run like the wind set as well. It gives max HP, so Blade will like to run with this max HP set anyway, since it scales with HP, and having more crit rate, especially since he already naturally sets his HP, is quite interesting to know as well. Other than that, anything that can cheese, who else can use this? I think the 4-piece might not be very usable by most characters in the game. I don't think there's any character that saps their own life to do damage other than Ireland right now in version 1.1. Yeah, I don't think so. But the people that I think could also use this set as a 2-piece will be your healers, like for example Natasha. For example, if I just show you the relics real quick, this Passerby of Wandering Cloud, you don't really want the 4-piece here. At the start of battle, immediately regenerate 1 skill point. So currently, most of us will feel that there is no real optimal like 2-piece on the other set. It does feel a bit awkward right now. So what you could do, for example, like Natasha as well as Bailu, for example, you can run a 2-piece HP set and then run a 2-piece outgoing healing bonus as well, and it will work really fine too. So I don't think it's a pretty lousy set to farm as a 2-piece. A lot of characters could use HP also. We did a video comparing like HP and defense, which are better for like defensive characters like Alystra, Huynh, who always take the aggro. So you can check it out if you're interested to know the mathematics behind it and which is better in terms of the stats and stuff. But I think it's a pretty good set. The one that I really like is the second set, which I'm going to talk about, the speed set, Messenger Traversing Hackerspace. So it increases the speed in like the main 2-piece. I'm quite interested to know how much it increases by. What is my bare minimum? I think because right now it's all unofficial content, we don't really know the exact. If it increases equivalent to the Musketeer of Warwick here in the 4-piece, the wearer's speed increases by 6%, I think it already outperforms. Because 2-piece, in the 2-piece, if you have this 6% at least, which means it's like about 6 speed per character, it's very easy to farm a 2-piece general thing, and you can just merge it with another like elemental bonus. Your characters move a lot faster. And on top of that, when the wearer uses an ultimate on any ally, which is like in the 4-piece, speed of all allies increases for a certain number of turns, being also like a speed buffing 4-piece. Of course, it can't stack, which is totally fine, especially if you're running with a DPS character. You can maybe run with like a 2-piece elemental, 2-piece speed in the main stat to move a bit faster. What do I think is like a fair buff for the 4-piece? I think if we see a 12% speed buff, a 10% to 12% speed buff, I think it's already very solid. Even a 6% might be interesting to play, especially since you can put the 4-piece on your supportive characters in the game. I think currently there are no supportive sets that do buffing for the whole team right now, if I'm not wrong, in terms of like the relics that we have in the game. Let me just take a very quick look. Yeah, I think the only ones that buff the team would probably be like Knight of Purity Palace right now, where you give like additional shielding for the rest of the team. But by and large, the rest of them, there is no real buffing for the rest of the team in the 4-piece set, which makes this Messenger of Traversing Hackerspace likely best in slot for a lot of characters in a supportive role. But first, let me tell you who is not going to be useful on. I don't think the 4-piece is useful at all for Lorta, because if we read the fine print, it says uses ultimate on any ally. Lorta's attack, ultimate attack, just does it on the enemy, so it doesn't really count for the 4-piece bonuses. 2-piece I think is still fair, especially maybe if you want to run with a 2-piece outgoing healing, 2-piece attack, or 2-piece, for example, imaginary damage bonus could be decent as well. But you might as well probably run like a 4-piece Musketeer of Warwick, who probably will have the same or maybe slightly better benefit. The only advantage is like you don't have to farm for a perfect 4-piece set, so it does become a bit efficient in that sense. Characters like Bailu also will work really well with this set because she uses her ultimate ability and heals the team, so that counts as a proccing of the 4-piece. If you don't care too much about the 4-piece set, which there's not really many, and you don't want for example, the outgoing healing bonus, you could consider running this speed set to just buff the team for speed. Same thing applies for Natasha as well. Can use this set if you don't need the additional healing for your characters, you don't need that max HP 2-piece buff. It's also pretty solid to have her move faster, get more uptime on her kit, as well as buffing the team's speed. You likely only will be having one because it doesn't stack. So putting it on your healer and coming for more offensive role from the healer, whereas your attackers, your more offensive characters can run more offensive kits, likely will be better. Like maybe your Harmony character, you're running a more offensive kit already. I think it's quite fair to see as well. Other the characters that can use this, you can't. So anything that does damage on the enemy, you can't use it. So stuff like Bronya, who buffs your team, can use it as well. Huynh, who buffs your own teammates, can use it. Asta as well, because she speeds buff. I think it works very well with like Asta, Huynh, as well as Bronya to just increase their utility as if they weren't already doing a lot on their own. So now they have a natural speed buff in their kit. You have, if you combine it with like Dance as well, if you just switch this up for Dance, you get speed buff, you got action advance, you have, for example, crit rate, crit damage buff, or energy restoration buff in Huyhn's case. Very, very solid, I think, combination. Probably likely going to be best in slot for all Harmony characters already on its own. Other than that, which other character can use this? I don't think there is much buffers left. Yeah, I don't think there's any much buffers left. The only other exception is probably Jett, that can use this. Everyone else more or less does damage in their kit here and there. Clara can use it also, but Clara doesn't care too much about speed. Don't think you will be running her with this set. Jett can use it because speed gives him more energy restoration. It gives him more ability to land debuffs on the enemy, to freeze the enemy as well. And if you don't care about his shielding, as he's usually quite thick already at better investment, I think this is a possibility, a good set to have, especially if you're running him with like a pure offensive team and he's the only one that you maybe don't care about his DPS potential too much and you can survive floors quite well. Those are my thoughts on the 4 sets as well. I'll be doing more testing once the game goes live. If any of you are curious about anything and you want me to test firsthand and let you guys know, leave a comment below. And what do you think about these sets? Who are you going to farm it for your characters? And do you like these sets in totality as well? Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.